Hey, Miguel Iturrate back here with a CRP Minute. I'm joined by Devin Miller to form our MMA team. We're looking at the UFC Fight Night 147, or as it's also been known, ESPN Plus 5. And we're talking about the UFC London card, March 16th. The fights are in the books. Darren Till, Jorge Masvidal, welterweight main event. Definitely a scrap. Masvidal pulls it out with a second round knockout. Stopped Darren Till cold with one shot to end Darren Till's night. A lot of people had Till as the favorite. We picked Till, but Masvidal pulled it off. Masvidal closer to our hearts too. Our brains said Till. Our brains were wrong. How you doing, Dev?
I'm doing good, man. I think I just witnessed the early contender for knockout of the year.
I think so. I think, George, a guy known for his boxing, but I don't know if he's known for knockout boxing. I think he's known for putting together his body shots and that sort of stuff. Hiding a big left hand in this case, and he landed square on the chin. It landed a couple of follow shots that were probably unnecessary, and made a short end. Showed something, and at 34 years old, he's been doing this his whole adult life. I think it shows, the calmness during the fight. I think, the fact is there was some adversity right at the very beginning of the fight, and how mentally you handle that sort of stuff. At some point, the back and forth of, making faces at Darren Till during the fight and stuff like that. Masvidal brought the whole gamut of tricks to this fight.
Yeah, he certainly did, and he was coming in on this fight on a 2-fight losing streak. He fought Damian Maia back in May of 2017, and at that time he was just coming off a big first-round stoppage to Donald Cerrone, second-round stoppage to Donald Cerrone, and a lot of people were talking about him as a potential title contender, and that Maia fight was very important. He actually lost a decision in that fight, but managed to have Maia on his back for extended periods of time and didn't get choked, and then came back and just didn't really pulled the trigger against Stephen Thompson and when they fought and lost the decision there. But, man, he pulled the trigger tonight. He came out guns a-blazing right off the bat, ran right out, got the inadvertent groin kick right off the bat, which was kind of funny, but it just really just showed what kind of mood he was in for the night. He was coming at Darren Till. And Till, I thought, looked really sharp. He was throwing well. He had a good snap to his punches. He seemed confident. But the extension on that sprinting in left hand that Masvidal ended up landing in the second round was just beautiful. Puts the lights out with Till. Till was out for a minute, and so this is a big win for Masvidal, coming in ranked as the number 11th ranked seed, not even ranked in the top 10, just beat the number 3 guy. So he's going to propel up the rankings. I think this sets up a fight with him and Ben Askren moving forward, and I think that's a really cool fight. I'm really excited to see that fight. I think that Masvidal has just become a great underdog in that fight. I think there's going to be a lot of build-up for that fight, a lot of anticipation, and I think that he'll be the perfect underdog to somebody like Askren. I also think that that's a fight that he can win, so that's a good fight. But my favorite takeaway from this fight was actually the post-fight interview, where he signaled to the Brit. He did this in London to the hometown boy Darren Till, but he signaled to the crowd that, look, he's a young kid, 25, 26 years old, 24, however old he is. I'm 34 years old. Give him 10 years. He's a young bull. I'm an old lion. You're gonna see good days with him. Don't throw him away yet, just because he's on a 2-fight skid now to 2 of the best in the world. I thought that was really cool. I think it's very true, because Darren Till looked really good today. I think Darren Till should really reevaluate where he's at, what weight class he's going to be fighting at, because I think that he's a very big man that could go up to middleweight and might have better success there. But big win from Masvidal, big win, and this really shapes up such a great division that's really starting to be neck and neck with lightweight as the best division we got.
Yep, I think Masvidal did the job we pointed out in the early going, in the pre-fight, wrap-ups or prognosis that we gave, that Masvidal had trouble getting off. But in this fight, like you said, he came out trying to set the pace, and he was able to set the pace throughout. I think he was doing well. I think Till also doing well, counter-punching. I think Till I think Till took some shots, and I think Till showed he had a chin up until the very end where he got caught by the one big shot, but I think he was walking through Masvidal's power pretty well, which was, to me, it was going to be a scary fight if it went to the judges because both guys were doing, point or eye-catching type of stuff.
Yeah, I agree, and but I did start noticing that Masvidal was starting to get his timing a little bit better coming into that second round. And Darren Till got hit a couple times and actually signaled to Masvidal, "Yeah, you got me there." And I thought that was cool. And that knockout, that was one of those knockouts that got us up on our feet. And it was cool. It was really cool to see. Great highlight for a fighter who's really been around the block and been in there a long time. And this is probably at this point maybe his career defining moment at this point because I don't believe his stock is ever going to be bigger, has ever been bigger than what it is after tonight.
Yep. And, George is calling out the champions. You talked about Ben Askren. The most lucrative fight of all for him, maybe he's still out there, is against Nick Diaz. George, grab your pay, baby. Anyway, going on to the co-feature fight, we got Leon Edwards and Gunnar Nelson. We thought this would be a tight fight. It was a tight fight. It was a grinding fight. It kind of played out exactly like you said it would, which is that Nelson is a superior, it has the highest level of attained at a certain discipline, and but that Edwards would be able to sustain defenses against Nelson, so Nelson wasn't going to be able to get Edwards out, and it did play out that way. When Nelson got him to the ground, Edwards was able to neutralize him.
Yeah, and Edwards was actually even able to get Nelson down a couple times, and actually looked like he was getting ready to take his back. And Edwards threw a beautiful elbow off the clinch in the second round that dropped Gunnar, and Gunnar took it well, kept coming. Kept fighting the way he normally does, blitzed in the third round, and actually got Rocky Edwards down and mounted him up, but it was a little too late. He only had about a minute to work with, and the fight ended. So that it was a good fight, and like you said, it played out kind of how I expected. I didn't think that Rocky Edwards was somebody that was going to be able to be just ran through in the grappling department. I know that he's a very good fighter, and he is definitely I believe he's a top 10 welterweight right now, but when we look at these rankings, I mean, this division is just so stacked. You had Gunnar coming in at number 13 and Leon at number 10, but when you look at those top 10, you got everybody from Usman, Woodland, Covington. Darren Till was ranked number 33, but that's going to fall. So Masvidal, Thompson, RDA, Askren, Ponzinibbio, Lawler, Maia, Magny. I mean, this is a great division. We just saw Elizu Dos Santos last week, and he's somebody that probably deserves a big crack at somebody next. So this is a great division, and I think Leon Edwards is somebody that is definitely in the top 10, not the higher half of it, but he's definitely earning himself contendership status and a potential another fight. He's now on a 7-fight win streak, so I don't know who he fights next. That's all going to have to be sorted out by Sean Shelby and the matchmakers. But, Rocky Edwards continued to impress. That was a good fight against a very, very strong and very talented opponent.
Yeah, Nelson, he got swelled up. He kept on fighting. It did seem to take a little bit of the starch out of him. And what I like about Edwards is the gas tank. He didn't seem to lose energy throughout the entire fight. In the light heavyweight division, we had Dominick Reyes and Volkan Oezdemir. I'm not sure I agree with the judges on this one. This one went split decision in Dominick Reyes' direction. And Oezdemir seemed to dictate the pace, especially in the earlier going, I guess. And I'm not sure judges didn't get this one right. How do you feel about this one?
I thought it was a very close fight. I think Reyes maybe landed the more diverse amount of strikes when you factor in the inside leg kicks and some of the teep kicks he was landing to the body, but he wasn't really able to effectively move Oezdemir backwards very well. You never really had him in any danger. And the one big takeaway that I have for this fight is coming into this fight, Dominick Reyes definitely had a lot of hype behind him. He's a top 10 fighter, 4-0 in the UFC. He's now 5-0 technically in the UFC, but this didn't really help his stock, especially considering that there's another big, young, up-and-coming fighter at this division who is going to be looking to get more mainstream appeal and mainstream recognition in their hopes to push toward the top of the division and fight maybe for the title someday. And obviously I'm talking about Johnny Walker, but when you consider these are the two young, unbeaten guys in the UFC at least, fighters that haven't lost inside the UFC, they've had some good highlights, they've had some good fights, they're moving up the ranks. This didn't really do anything to help his status, I feel like, in getting people to clamor for a title fight with him and John Jones. In fact, he doesn't really look ready. And that was kind of disappointing to me because I've been kind of high on Reyes. I've been very impressed with him in the past, and he just didn't seem to be able to get his rhythm tonight against Volkan. And Volkan looked very stealthy, very strong, and but I just think what lost the fight for Volkan was just lack of volume, was just lack of being turning in enough shots, just the way the judges, one way or the other.
Yeah, he was chasing all day, and you know, you got to give Reyes credit for fluidity and for being able to manage the movement in the ring and stuff, and turned Volkan into looking plotting at times, which doesn't work for you with some of the judges. I agree with you. I don't think Reyes did himself any favors with this performance. I do think it's almost a step back from people talking about heady things like a title shot, but at the end of the day, he is undefeated, and we'll hear from him again. Hopefully, we'll see. Maybe him against Jimmy Manua, if they want to keep him in England, that might be better his level than jumping him up another level to a title shot or anything like that. Moving down into the bantamweight division, Nathaniel Wood and Jean Alberto Quinones went to war. Wood, the local fighter, with Brad Pickett in his corner. Brad Pickett, the UFC veteran, and Wood getting the job done with a rear naked choke in the 246 mark of round 2. He looked good in terms of transitioning and using ground fighting when he needed to. In the stand-up, it was Quinones kind of being game, but always being a step behind. How'd you see this one?
Well, Nathaniel Wood is definitely a big takeaway on the night, and we're no stranger here at the CRP using this word, but I like his nickname, the Prospect. I think that's really cool. I think it fits him well. He's now 3-0 inside the UFC. All three fights have been finishes. Only 25 years old. Definitely a game fighter, and he transitioned very well when he took a very good fighter down in the second round. And Quinones tried to pop up and gave us back, and the transition, the flow that Nathaniel Wood showed was very impressive. Took his back, got the finish, and that's another great division right now is bantamweight, and I'm very interested to see if they maybe have him ranked like low top 15 after this, or if he's going to need one more win before he gets ranked. But one thing I am pretty confident of is Nathaniel Wood will be fighting a ranked contender in his next fight. I think that he's a legit guy at bantamweight. Only time will tell when you got other big up and comers coming up in that division as well. But if he's going to be one of the top contenders, but I think that he has the potential of being a good British contender in that division.
And more welterweight action, and we talked about this fight also before during our wrap during the week, and keeping our eye on the welterweight division. You mentioned Leon Edwards would be able to hold off Gunnar Nelson, but that at the end, Danny Roberts might not be able to hold off Claudio Silva because of Silva's specialty on the ground. This one played out that way. I thought Roberts showed a lot, getting deep into the third round, into the second half of the third round at least, but Claudio Silva did lock in the submission at the end, getting the finish. Roberts, a little bit of a weird sequence there where it seemed like he had a verbal submission that went into effect with the referee just at around the moment that he was getting out of the arm lock. So how did you see that? How do you wrap that up? What was your thoughts?
I thought it went exactly how I thought it would go. I think in this fight we saw that Danny Roberts was the better fighter overall. I think that he was hurting Claudio. He was doing a good job of keeping the fight up. He was cracking him when he could. He looked big. He looked strong. but that grappling expertise that Claudio has, he just kept dragging it back into that world, and he ended up catching the armbar in the third round. And I felt for Danny Roberts because he was really starting to take over that fight before that happened. But Claudio's 36 years old, but he's now 4-0 inside the octagon. But the thing is, all 4 of those wins are spread out in over almost a 5-year period. So his first fight in the octagon was in March of 2014, and now here it is, March of 2019. He's only fought 4 times. So he's been very off and on, very inactive, but he is undefeated still in his UFC tenure. So I don't know really what they do with him at his age, and just with his history of inactivity, I think that's why he's not ranked. But he is very good at what he does, and this is a big win for him. I think Danny Roberts will regroup and come back. I think he's a really good fighter.
Yeah, I think Silva, to give him props, not only the ground props, but at the end of the day, just also a tough guy, because he put up with a battering for 2.5 rounds and stayed with the fight in order to get the finish. That says something. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him next. And the last fight we're going to cover here on the main card, Jack Marshman and John Phillips. This is another split decision. Phillips and Marshman basically engaging in a boxing match. The judges gave it to Marshman. Phillips, at the end of the day, not throwing enough punches, or rather throwing ineffective punches and getting caught by Marshman on the way in. Marshman boxing and counter-punching in order to get the win. Not exciting stuff, but at the end of the day, Marshman rights the ship. How do you see this one?
I think you spelled it out there a lot. I don't think there's really a whole lot to say here. It was a very pretty even fight. It turned out to be a split decision, and Marshman just landed the more effective shots in this fight. And this is a big win. This is definitely a necessary win for Marshman, who was coming in 2-3 in the UFC on a 2-fight skid to get back in the win zone. Very bad loss for John Phillips. He's now 0-3 in the UFC. I'm not sure they're going to hold him around, especially when you consider just the talent. They want to spend money on guys that are going to give people a really good show or are going to be a contender. So I'm not sure John Phillips is a top level ranked opponent, ranked contender, and it has the possibility of that. I think he's a good fighter, but this is a tough loss for him, and I think that Marshman really saved himself from potentially being either with this fight or one more fight on his way out of the organization. So these type of fights, man, it's like do or die type of fights, and Marshman squeaked out the decision.
And we were talking about the UFC's London offering for March 15th. The main event saw Jorge Masvidal take out Darren Till, and welterweight action throughout the main card. I've been joined by our MMA analyst Devin Miller to review in depth the UFC's main card in London.